So I am completely delighted to have you, Brad, have a chat with me. And for those of you who don't know Brad, I'm sure you all do, but I will introduce him. So Brad has had the privilege and pleasure of working with a diverse group of clients, from CEOs to professionals and Olympic athletes, from chiropractors and psychiatrists to corporate and federal attorneys, from award-winning actors to residents at a program for homeless men and women in Santa Monica. And for several years, he taught a weekly class using EFT and guided imagery at Sacramento Drug Court. But what I think he's most well known for, at least in my opinion, is his absolutely incredible YouTube channel, where he has a tapping video for almost every topic you can imagine. And I just had a quick look, and I've noticed that you have 243,000 subscribers, and I'm sure you've got millions of views. Do you know how many, do you know where you're up to on that?
It just last week or the week before went over 41 million.
Wow, amazing. So I think everyone who knows EFT has at least watched one or several tapping videos of yours. But the reason that we're talking today is because of your best-selling children's book, The Wizard's Wish. So here it is. So perhaps you can say a little bit about how that came about, how what motivated you to write it.
Yeah. So as you know, as a practitioner, when we're working with adults, very often the things that we tap into are things that happened in their childhood. And so I was thinking, it would be great to find ways to introduce tapping to kids. And having two kids of my own, and we always loved reading them storybooks. I thought, wow, to have a kind of a little, fantasy storybook about that. And I've always loved wizards. I'm a big Harry Potter geek and have all kinds of Harry Potter wands on my wall. And it was also shortly after I had been interviewed for the film The Tapping Solution. And in that interview with Jessica Ortner, we had talked a lot about tapping for kids. And so I was also, from that thinking, I'd like to find something that could benefit kids. So thinking storybook idea, wizards, and it's like, oh, and wands, and we could use our fingers as wands, and it just kind of came together. But it was actually an interesting story of tapping through blocks, because I had written the story and was trying to think of, okay, I'm going to have to illustrate myself because I'm a cartoonist. Not that I do much with it, but my mom always wanted me to do more with my cartooning. So I thought, I can't hire an illustrator. My mom would kill me. I'm going to have to illustrate myself. But I'm looking through the book and going, okay, I'll need a picture for this. I'll need a picture for this. It's probably about 18 drawings. And I was just so blocked. I'm like, that's so many. That's going to be so much work. And you can see these are not intrinsic or complex drawings. These are simple little cartoons, but still, I just had this block about it. And it took me 2 years that I was like, I don't know what to do with this. And finally, working with a friend of mine, Marla Brucker. I don't know if you know who Marla is. She's in Gary's Ultimate Therapist video. She's the one who does the spoon bending, and longtime friend of mine. And we did some tapping about the blocks. And the next week I sat down and did 40 drawings.
Wow.
So testament to how tapping works. That it was like, oh, I just need to tap through those blocks about drawing and then illustrate it. And yeah, it was it was trying to find a fun way to share tapping with kids and kind of trick adults into learning about it too. They read the book with their kids.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it's available on all of Amazon, isn't it? That's where I got my copy. Is that the best place where people can find it?
Yeah, if you look on Amazon for The Wizard's Wish, That's probably the best place. And then I also have, it's translated into 26 languages now. I think it just released a translation in Finnish a couple of weeks ago. So those, if you, for those, they're just ebook versions. And if you go to my website, tapwithbrad.com, and on there, on that page, you'll see a link for the Wizard's Wish, and just click on that and you can find translations. So if anyone wants to, in German or Spanish or Chinese or all kinds of different languages.
That's incredible. That's absolutely fantastic. So I'm sure that's helped so many children and so many parents as well, because I know from being a parent and working with parents, like knowing that your child has a tool makes such a massive difference, and something that you can do with them as well is really helpful. You must have had like some stories in the past of feedback from people. Is there anything that comes to mind? I know I'm putting you on the spot here.
Yeah, my someone, a neighbor of ours, had they had a child who had a lot of anxiety, and somehow she had gotten a copy. I think we had taken some over to the local elementary school, and she'd gotten a copy that way, and said that after reading through the book, that was the first night that their daughter had slept through the night in many months, if not longer. So that was, oh, that's awesome to hear.
Yeah, I've got tingles hearing that. That is just incredible. From looking through a children's book and probably taking a small bit of action, it can be, and we know it is life-changing. So that is absolutely incredible. Now, I'm really intrigued. How on earth did your book get to the Oscars?
It's funny because you mentioned this before we started the recorder, and now I'm trying to think back. How did it? Somebody had reached out to me. It was this. There's a company that puts together these gift bags for the for Oscar nominees, and they have a couple of different people looking for people who might add something to the gift bag. And it was just somebody, some person who has a media company in England who's watched my videos, and she was one of the people who looks for people to put things in the gift bags, and reached out to me. And at first, I think she had at first reached out about offering coaching sessions, and then immediately got back to me and said, no, we only, they only have one person offering coach sessions, and somebody else has already done that. So she said, but do you have a book? And I said, yeah, actually, I've got a children's book. So put that in. And then, and my wife had just, her book had just recently come out, Christy's book,
Yeah.
Building a Legacy of Love. And so I said, hey, I have another great book that you could put in there. So both of our books were put in there.
Wow.
And we, wrote handwritten notes to all of the nominees. And I don't know if any of them ever opened the books or read them. The nice thing about it was the story was interesting to a local news station. So they came over and they did a segment on Christy and myself, which then aired on TV locally just before the Oscars. So
Amazing. Amazing.
So that was fun to be able to share about the books and to share about tapping, because I got to talk a little bit about EFT on the local news that when people are tuning in for the Oscars. So
That's
just trying to share this work with people.
Absolutely. I mean, the more that we can get this out there, the better. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we started this chat, I just put out on social media if anyone had any questions for you. And I've got this question, which I wondered if you wanted to discuss or see where we can take it. And the question is, what techniques can the child use when the day has got off to the wrong foot? The child isn't listening to instructions for the morning routine, which is then triggering the parent to get themselves back to level and help rebuild the relationship between the parent and the child. So it sounds like the child, you know, they've got up in the morning, the child isn't doing what they're supposed to doing, the parent has probably been triggered, maybe lost it, feeling guilty, and it's like, at that point, what can they do to get back on track? And I know this is a really common one, like, at least for my clients.
Yes, when the parent is feeling more frazzled than fabulous.
That's the one. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, you've written a book on this and more of an expert on that side. But yeah, what I've told parents when I've things that I've written about tapping for parents is start with yourself first, because if it's like, my kid is driving me nuts and I need them to tap, well, maybe you might want to first tap on, even though my child is driving me nuts, and calm yourself down, because if you're trying to force your kid to tap from that frazzled place, probably not going to be the most beneficial event of the day.
Absolutely.
So taking that moment to try to chill out as much as you can, and then, you know, maybe make a game of it. And the great thing is, at that moment, you don't even have to come up with wording, or you could, you know, do a nursery rhyme or a song or something like that. And if you can get them to do some tapping along with just something, you know, even, you know, they're already in that state of agitation, and so we don't need to worry about what might be causing that right at the moment. I wouldn't spend any time trying to analyze and like, what's the perfect setup phrase for this kid right now? Are you worried about your math test in 2 weeks? Or, you know, even though I'm worried about the math test, just say, you know, hey, let's just do some tapping and you know, nursery rhyme or songs or whatever, and just something to just start down regulating that stress response. But yeah, I always recommend to parents, work on your own nervous system first before you try to force something on the kid, because then it's not going to be, because the idea for the tapping is to help them feel better, and we can't force somebody to feel better.
Absolutely. And I mean, in my experience, when the parents do tap on themselves first, it shifts the whole dynamic anyway,
Yeah.
because what happens is there's that resonance. So the child is kicking off, and when the parent is stressed, then you know, the child is not going to feel safe. So because they're so inextricably linked. So I would totally agree that, you know, we as parents, we have to take responsibility for ourselves before we can actually support our children. And the more we invest in our own well-being, the better the child will feel, and the safer the child will feel. And sometimes I think that the parent, like, sometimes the child has to do their thing, and if the parent is feeling strong and solid in that, they can really hold that structure, hold a safe container for the child to do their thing. And that will give the child permission to just let loose in the way that they need to. And sometimes that's what just needs to happen.
Right.
But that's so hard, because we as parents get so triggered in those moments. And if we've had messages from our parents, you know, you're not allowed to express your anger, or whatever we've learned as children, we're then going to bring that. And sometimes it's hard to be around an angry child. Like, not everyone feels strong enough and solid enough to hold that space. But the more we do our own self-tapping, the easier that becomes.
Yeah.
So,
and just from the calming down, that might help the child calm down. Or we might, as we tap through our own stuff, we might go, they're really not doing anything that wrong. As you said, they may just be being children. And it's like,
yeah,
and it may have been our own response that it just seems that much more aggravating. Because when we're in a stress response, every little thing can grate on us. And, you know, it's like, would you stop that breathing? What? You're breathing too loud.
Yeah. Yeah. So, would you be up for doing a tapping round for a parent to kind of like help release that so that they can be more present, or just, just take it in any direction you fancy?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So everyone, go ahead and close your eyes. Take a deep breath, and just allow yourself to be right here, right now, as present as possible. And go ahead and imagine, some event, maybe some recent event with your child that was challenging, and allow yourself to be aware of, maybe the child's at home and is not doing what you want them to do. Maybe it's at the grocery store and the child is misbehaving. Uh, whatever it might be, and allow yourself to be aware of where you might feel that discomfort, where you might feel anxiety or stress, anger. Don't judge yourself harshly for feeling that. That's very human. Just allow yourself to be aware of where you might be feeling it. Notice on a scale of 0 to 10 how strong it might get, even just imagining this. And allow yourself to be aware of what thoughts, beliefs, or memories might be attached to that discomfort. Is it, as you were just saying, Tamara, maybe family programming about how children should behave, or it may be a sense of embarrassment. It may be a sense of, well, here's proof that I'm not a good parent, and how might you be making it personal? Because generally anything that's upsetting us is because it's personal. So just allow yourself to be aware of where that might be. Take a deep breath, open your eyes. And taking full responsibility for your own well-being. Even though this is stressing me out,
Even though this is stressing me out,
or whatever words someone wants to put to what they're feeling, I choose to love and accept myself.
I choose to love and accept myself.
Even though this kid is stressing me out,
Even though this kid is stressing me out,
I choose to love and honor myself.
I choose to love and honor myself.
Even though this kid is on my last nerve,
Even though this kid is on my last nerve,
and I need them to change
and I need them to change
for me to feel better.
for me to feel better.
Even though I'm feeling all this stress,
Even though I'm feeling all this stress,
I choose to deeply and completely
I choose to deeply and completely
love, honor, and accept myself.
love, honor, and accept myself.
And maybe anyone else who might be involved.
And maybe anyone else who might be involved.
Especially this child that I love so much.
Especially this child who I love so much.
If not as much right now.
If not as much right now.
All this stress.
All this stress.
All this possible anger.
All this possible anger.
All this frustration.
All this frustration.
All this stuff that comes up.
All this stuff that comes up.
When my child is behaving in a way.
When my child is behaving in a way.
That I deem less than perfect.
That I deem less than perfect.
I want my kid to be perfect 24/7.
I want my kid to be perfect 24/7.
Not because I'm bad or stupid.
Not because I'm bad or stupid.
But because I have programming telling me.
Because I have programming telling me.
That my child should behave perfectly all the time.
That my child should behave perfectly all the time.
I'm open to the possibility.
I'm open to the possibility.
That my child is behaving perfectly all the time.
That my child is behaving perfectly all the time.
Sometimes they're being perfectly childish.
Sometimes they're being perfectly childish.
And I'm allowing myself to know.
And I'm allowing myself to know.
My child is doing the best they can.
My child is doing the best they can.
In any given moment.
At any given moment.
Given what's going on for them.
Given what's going on for them.
And I cannot get stressed enough.
And I cannot get stressed enough.
To solve what's bothering them.
To solve what's bothering them.
But I can allow myself to calm down.
but I can allow myself to calm down.
So I can be of more help to them.
So I can be of more help to them.
I'm open to the possibility
I'm open to the possibility
that just by me calming down,
that just by me calming down,
they might change.
they might change.
And even if they don't change,
And even if they don't change,
at least I won't be so strung out.
at least I won't be so strung out.
If I can't change my child's behavior in the moment,
If I can't change my child's behavior in the moment,
at least I can make it less painful for myself.
at least I can make it less painful for myself.
And then I'm in a better position.
And then I'm in a better position
to find better solutions.
to find better solutions.
So I choose to clear what doesn't feel like peace.
So I choose to clear what doesn't feel like peace.
All the upset I might feel.
All the upset I might feel.
All the embarrassment I might feel.
All the embarrassment I might feel.
All the anger I might feel.
All the anger I might feel.
And all the fear that I might feel.
And all the fear I might feel.
Because usually when we're feeling stressed out,
Because usually when we're feeling stressed out,
there's some level of fear under that.
there's some level of fear under that.
So what am I so afraid of?
So what am I so afraid of?
And I'm clearing that fear.
And I'm clearing that fear.
And I'm allowing myself to trust.
And I'm allowing myself to trust
This too shall pass.
that this too shall pass.
My child and I will get through this.
My child and I will get through this.
I choose to get through it with more peace.
I choose to get through this with more peace.
It's okay for me to feel peace.
It's okay for me to feel peace.
I don't need to get angry to make changes.
I don't need to get angry to make changes.
I love and forgive myself when I do.
I love and forgive myself when I do,
But I'm choosing peace instead
but I am choosing peace instead
for myself and my child.
for myself and my child.
Take a deep breath. Yeah, you just kept coming. It's like, no, keep it short for right now. But it's like, but that's the thing is, and as for anyone, as you're tapping, trust your gut. And as you're tapping along, just notice what might come up. Because when we're tapping, it's like peeling the layers of the onion. And you might be tapping along and it's like, oh, my child is driving me nuts right now. And it's, oh my God, this totally reminds me of something that happened 20 years ago. And, or I'm so afraid, I didn't even realize that I was afraid that if my mom was here right now, how upset she'd be with me for not making a change or something like that. And just allow yourself to go through and explore what might I be afraid of? What is upsetting me right now? And, could I just let my child work through this right now? Or at least get to a place that's like, hey, now I can be there for them and and try to help them through whatever's going on for them.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because when you said close your eyes and think of something, I was thinking, okay, my daughter's an adult, but like I am being triggered by something, but it's all my stuff. It's nothing to do with her. And she's just moved out of home. And I have such anxiety about like not knowing if she's got home, like, because like, and it's just, and I have to deal with that. And I'm so glad that I've just been doing tapping with you because I was thinking, I have to tap on that. And that is not her problem. It's my problem.
Yeah.
I
know. So my daughter's been out here for the holidays and we just sent her home back to Dublin yesterday. Yeah. So her flight was landing at around midnight. And it's funny because I woke up just after midnight and I thought, oh, I should check to see if her flight landed. So I grabbed the phone that's by my bedstand and I'm checking and it hasn't landed yet because it was delayed taking off. So I just lay there and a few moments later checked and it's like, okay, now it's landed. Now I know now I can go back to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't stop being parents when they're grown up, like they, it carries on, but I have to, for myself, my own sanity, I have to find a way of like being peaceful and just having that level of trust that everything is okay. And
I have a video on being an empty nester.
I need that video.
And I have a couple of videos. I mean, obviously, you tell with parents all the time, so you know all this stuff. But it's sometimes we don't see our own stuff, and I often don't see my own stuff, as evidenced by the story about, you know, illustrating my book. Um, and it is something that we get used to. You know, my daughter's been living over in another country for some time. My son's been living on the other side of this country for the last 7 years,
Wow.
I think. So you know, we get used to it. It becomes the new normal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just a new stage and I have to adjust and get used to it.
It's weird. I mean, I was just saying to my wife the other day, it's hard to remember back when, you know, for nearly 20 years, the kids were in the house all the time.
Yeah.
For a lot of that time, they were young. We had to do everything for them, and you know, getting them to school and making meals, getting them dressed, and things like that. And it was everything. And now it's like, you know, our daughter went home back to Ireland yesterday. It was like back to having the house to ourselves. Like it's hard to remember what it was like
Yeah.
at that time, and you just get used to it again. It's like, okay, and now this is what life is now, and we enjoy seeing what they're up to and feeling proud of them and being there for them when things are difficult.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, still occasionally sending money and stuff like that, and
Yeah. Yeah. It's a whole new stage. So and it is an adjustment for sure. So yeah, definitely some tapping on my part is definitely needed. And I'm so glad that, you know, I've got the tool and like what would we do without it?
we go nuts.
Literally. Yeah. I actually don't know how people cope. And my daughter, when she was younger, she said to me, what do people do who haven't got tapping? And said, well, I don't know. I mean, it's not that it has to be tapping, but a tool.
Right, some sort of tool, hopefully a healthy one, as opposed to drugs and drinking, and which you know, many people
Yeah.
use. And we have all kinds of coping mechanisms, and there are a lot of people who don't have healthy coping mechanisms, and we see really unfortunate behavior in people, and it's looking at and going, okay, that's a person who doesn't have coping mechanisms. That's a person who, you know, they're in the grocery store yelling at the clerk for something, and it may be that their child had a meltdown and they don't have some kind of healthy coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So it's looking at and trying to have that place of compassion. You know, I just love the Walt Whitman quote of "Be curious rather than judgmental," and looking
Yes.
at what's going on for that person. And it may be that's a parent who doesn't have coping mechanism,
Yeah.
and is on their last nerve.
Yeah. And I try and remember as well that people only behave in say unconstructive or unpleasant ways because of everything they've experienced up to that point, and
Yeah.
they're acting out of hurt, even if it seems that they're, you know, being mean and horrible. They're in pain.
Yeah.
And I think I try and remember that so that I can keep having the compassion, and like you said, the curiosity is absolutely key. So again, if your child's kind of not behaving in the way that you'd like them to, if you can, like once you've tapped, you can bring in that curiosity. So I wonder what happened.
Yeah, what's going on for you? Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you can be tapping at this and say, hey, let's sit down. Let's talk about what's going on, as opposed to you just need to stop that right now.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that was an option. Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I forgot that I could be quiet and well behaved. I just needed a reminder.
But of course, when we're triggered as parents, we cannot have that curiosity. So we need to calm
Right.
everything down.
That's why we need to calm ourselves first so that we can get
Yeah.
to that place. Yeah, absolutely. When we're triggered, and it's being compassionate with ourselves too.
Yeah.
And, you know, getting curious. It's like, is it just this behavior that's going on right now? Is this a culmination of a number of things that have been going on? And how do I get curious? And that for me is always what it is when doing the tapping rounds. Is the things I'm saying is I'm just getting curious about what might be causing this upset, and let's bring that to the surface and talk about it, tap through it, and get to a place of, okay, now I'm in a position to hear what might be going on for my child.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good. Well, Brad, thank you so much for joining me. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I'm sure that the people watching are going to absolutely love that tapping routine. It's so relevant to parents, as you can see, at any stage of parenting, whether you've got a baby or an adult. So, you know, you can adapt it to whatever's going on for you and really make good use of this. And of course, there's the book for your children. And so do check that out in many, many languages. Where I know that you're all over YouTube. Where else can, where would you like to point people to?
Probably the easiest is tapwithbrad.com, because then you'll find links to all of the resources that I have.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brad.
Oh, my pleasure. It's always lovely hanging out with you.
Yeah, thank you.